Well, good morning. I hope everyone is having a good Tuesday morning. This is Steve Ramirez with my video blog, and wanted to recap the weekend for some of the Southern California teams, and let let's get right into it. First, let's look at the at UCLA. They improved to 3-0. Everyone going into the year thought they would be 3-0 at this point in the season, and they lived up to that part of their expectations by defeating South Alabama 32-31. South Alabama supposed to compete for the Sun Belt title, and that's the same conference with Appalachian State, which upset Texas A&M a few weeks ago, and Georgia Southern, who had an upset win, and Marshall, which upset Notre Dame a couple weeks ago. And looked like for most of this game, South Alabama was going to upset UCLA. South Alabama was able to move the ball pretty well. Oh, the final score in this game, UCLA won 32-31. Like I said, South Alabama moved the ball well. They had 399 total yards. UCLA's offense was also good. They had 407 yards. UCLA fell behind in this game 17-6 and 31-23 after coming back to lead 20-17 and 23-17. There are some concerns in this game in the fact that this is a game that UCLA, they were favored by double digits in this game. But this South Alabama team, at least from what I saw, they look like a decent club. But you're also gonna, it's kind of human nature not to kind of, think when you face a team like this and you have big expectations like UCLA has this year, that you're going to take them lightly a little bit, and then you kind of see what happens, and then you get behind. But UCLA showed a really good resilience in this game. They were able to win the game on a Nicholas Barmera 24-yard field goal as time expired. UCLA, I said, after falling behind 31-23, they got a touchdown pass from Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and they missed a 2-point conversion to pull within 31-29. And then they made a big stop on a faked field goal attempt by South Alabama, and then drove about 60 yards to set up the winning field goal. So there are concerns. The fact that South Alabama was able to move the ball pretty well, mainly with their running game. They rushed for about 160 yards, and they had a really good short passing game. UCLA is going to have to shore that up as they go in the conference play, especially in a couple of weeks when they play Washington, which is started 3-0 and beat Michigan State last week, and then they play Utah after that, and then Oregon. So they play Colorado this week. Should be UCLA win the way Colorado's played. Colorado's 0-3 and has been just dominated in their 3 non-conference games. So this, they do not look like a very good team, but it's a road game, so I could see a single-digit win for UCLA in that game. But UCLA has things that they have to tighten up, and the defense has to be better. Like I said at the beginning of the year, the key to UCLA's season is being able to match what they did offensively when they led the conference in scoring, and tightened up their defense, where they gave up 26 points a game last year. The defenses looked pretty good in the first couple of weeks, but they were also playing much lesser opponents, including an FBS school or FCS school. And then this week, when they played a decent club, like I said, South Alabama is a decent club. They've got some NFL caliber players on that team. Just the overall depth is where they're lacking. But the fact that they were able to move the ball against UCLA's got to tighten that up moving forward, because I think their offense is going to score. They had some losses to the NFL, but it looks like they found some solutions there. So we'll see where that goes. Some of the stats in the game for UCLA. Dorian Thompson-Robinson threw for 263 yards and 3 touchdowns. He looked pretty good. He made a couple bad throws, but overall, he made some big time throws. Zach Charbonnet, who still suffering from an injury, which held him out of last week's game, and he didn't look like his usual. So he did break some runs, but not the usual big runs that we're used to seeing him make. But him and Keegan Jones combined for 143 yards rushing, which was good to see. Looks like we have our 1 and 2 backs at UCLA this year. With Britton Brown going to the NFL, that was kind of one of the question marks. But Keegan Jones looks like he's going to be the number 2 change-up back. And receiving wise, Jake Bobo, a transfer, he led the receivers with 5 receptions for 89 yards and a touchdown. He looks like a pretty good target for GTR. So that's kind of the UCLA report this week. Like I said, there is concerns. Yes, there is concerns, but I'm not sure you can read too much into the close game. It was a close game, but we still got a lot of tough games, a lot of good games throughout the season, and I'm not sure you can read. Some are reading into it too much. That this shows that this UCLA defense might not be as good as people think, but I think it's a little bit too early. You can't just go off that one game. Everyone has kind of a bad game, and we'll see where we go from there. Look at Oregon. They got blown out by number 1 Georgia to open the season, and then they basically routed number 13 BYU this week. They're probably somewhere in between those 2 games, so you just can't make a read on one game. But we'll see what happens this week. Like I said, I think it's going to be somewhat of a close game. These conference games usually are on the road. I know Colorado has not looked good, but conference games are just different. So we'll see where they go. So that's the UCLA report for this week. Moving on to USC. USC improved to 3-0 with a 48-17 victory over Fresno State, which I thought the game was a little bit closer than that. Fresno State's quarterback, Jake Haener, who probably is going to get drafted in the NFL. He did suffer a significant injury. We'll see how long he's out, and that may hurt some of his NFL status, but it depends on how he plays when he comes back. If he's the same Jake Haener, he was considered one of the top quarterbacks on the West Coast this year. So we'll see where he goes. But I thought the game kind of changed after he got hurt, and USC was able to win pretty big, 45-17. Caleb Williams had a really good game again, as he's had in the first 2 weeks. Threw for 284 yards and 2 touchdowns. Travis Dye and Austin Jones both combined for over 100, or both had over 100 yards rushing to combine for over 200 yards. I thought at times their offense looked somewhat sluggish, especially the middle part of the second quarter, where they were having trouble moving the ball, and and Caleb Williams was having trouble finding open receivers, and he seemed to be a little hesitant with the ball. But they did score 45 points, so that shows you where that is. Concern again, the defense gave up 164 yards rushing, including after Haener got hurt. They gave it some big chunks of yardage when you think they would be concentrating more on the run since the number one quarterback is out. And it was only an 11-point game at that point. So that is kind of a concern. But they did rebound, and they did what you're supposed to do in that situation, and won big. Next up for USC is Oregon State, which is 3-0. Oregon State beat Fresno State on the road last week. Close game, so this is a game that USC probably should win, but it is at Oregon State, and Oregon State was undefeated at home last year, and they are playing well to begin the year this year. They also beat Boise State, so this is probably going to be USC's toughest test to date, especially playing on the road. So I see I don't think they'll lose, but I think it might be close. Within one score, maybe 10 points, something like that. But we'll see. So that's the report on USC for this week. Moving on to the Rams. The Rams improved to 1-1. They recovered from their big loss to the Buffalo Bills on opening night to defeat the Atlanta Falcons 31-27. Game that was kind of closer than the score indicates, and the fact that the Rams jumped out to a 28-3 lead, and then they seemed to kind of be sluggish, which can happen. That's kind of human nature when you kind of get a big lead. You see these teams kind of relax a little bit, and the other team is still fighting, and Atlanta was able to get back in the game and had a chance to win it. They blocked a punt and returned it for a touchdown, got a 2-point conversion to pull within 6 points at 31-25, was driving. I think they had the ball at the Ram 20, and then Jalen Ramsey saved the day for the Rams with an interception in the end zone. And then Atlanta got the ball back after the Rams were able to run the clock down to about 6 seconds, and then Marcus Mariota was sacked on the final play of the game. So thought it was a good win for the Rams. They did move the ball like they should against Atlanta. In the week 1 game, the Rams had trouble blocking Von Miller and the Bills' defensive line, but the Bills have a really good defensive line, especially when you add in a Von Miller. Atlanta's had struggles since they were in the Super Bowl a few years ago, putting together a good defensive line that's able to rush the quarterback. And Matthew Stafford had time to throw, and he showed what he can do when he has time to throw. He did make a couple bad throws. He had 2 interceptions, threw for 272 yards, and 3 touchdowns. But he had those 2 interceptions. One was kind of forced in the end zone, trying for a 4th touchdown, and the other one was he didn't really see the defensive back, and the guy made a great play on the ball. Still a throw that he shouldn't make, though. So, but overall, I thought Stafford played great. He moved the team, and like I said, he threw for nearly 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. The defense looked good early into the 3rd quarter, and then they kind of lost a little focus, I thought. But overall, I thought it was a good win for the Rams. Next up, they're at the Cardinals in Arizona. The Cardinals are 1-1 after rallying to beat the Raiders, who are surprisingly 0-2 as the season begins. Kyler Murray looked good for the Cardinals late in that game, rallying for them, and then the Cardinals won it when a pass to Hunter Renfrow was fumbled and returned for a touchdown to win the game. So that should be a good game for the Rams. Good test. Rams have had in the Sean McVay era have had really good success against the Cardinals. I expect that to continue. I can see the Rams winning this game, but I think it'll be a close game, kind of like that game for the playoffs a couple of years ago. I don't see it like a blowout like we saw in the playoff game this past season, but you never know. Things happen in the NFL. But I can see the Rams improving to 2-1. But it should be a good game on Sunday. Moving on to a couple other topics that I wanted to talk about. The Dodgers completed a sweep to get their 101st win. They beat the Giants over the weekend, won in 10 innings yesterday. Or I should say on Sunday, 1 in 10 innings on Sunday. So, and they were able to clinch the West NFC NL West division. Sorry about that. Get slipped up sometimes. They clinched the division last week in Arizona, and after resting some of their starters, they went on and swept the Giants over the weekend, and they basically got the number 1 seed in the NL playoffs locked up, and I think they have a 5 or 6 game lead over the Houston Astros, who, if the Dodgers make it to the World Series, I think the AL representative will be the Houston Astros. They seem to be the team to beat in the AL, but the Dodgers have about a 5 game lead over them for best record, which will be important if those two teams meet in the World Series. And that's kind of what the Dodgers want to do from here on out. Not to, they have a shot at the record of most wins in the season. They'd have to go something like 15-2, but I don't see them putting in, I don't think that's their goal. I think right now they just kind of want to make sure they get their players healthy, and they have a couple of players still on the IL. And they're going to need Blake Treinen in the playoffs. They're going to need Tony Gonsolin, preferably as a starter in the playoffs. The question is if he'll be stretched out in time enough to go 6-7 innings. I doubt that. Probably you're looking at a 4 or 5 if he's able to get that during these last few weeks of these bullpen sessions that they're going to put him through. And also, they just want to get some of their players to be healthy and be playing their best as we get into the playoffs. So they're really playing just for that right now, not concentrating too much on setting the all-time record. And I just wanted to touch a little bit on Arizona State football coach Herman Edwards was fired on Sunday. There are reports that it was a mutual decision, but for the most part, he was fired by some reports. Arizona State lost to Eastern Michigan on Saturday, and he's also under the cloud of a NCAA investigation. Most of the coaches who were alleged to be in violation of NCAA rules have been let go, and he was kind of the last remaining. And it was believed that once the probation, and if it was a hard probation, that he was going to be let go. And just after the loss to Eastern Michigan, they decided to make the move at this time. So we'll see where that goes at Arizona State. They seem to be like a good club this year. They lost some key players, including their quarterback, Jaden Daniels, in the transfer portal, but they've added some key pieces. And up until Saturday, they look decent, even though they lost to Oklahoma State 2 weeks ago. The way they lost to Eastern Michigan, just falling way behind and having to rally, which they were unable to do. So we'll see where they move on, and just wanted to touch base on that. And so that's kind of my weekend report. Should be a big weekend coming up. UCLA on the road at Colorado, USC on the road at Oregon State, and the Rams on the road at Arizona. So that's my report for the weekend, and hope you enjoyed this video. And until next time.